Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Kristin Kurtz, and I'm also the founder of New Wings Coaching. I help and empower wild-hearted and adventurous women of faith feeling caged and stuck unlock their true purpose and potential, break free from limitations, and thrive with confidence, courage, and hope. If you're curious to learn more about coaching with me, head to newwingscoaching.net and be sure to explore the show notes for ways to connect with me further. Get ready to dive in as we uncover empowering keys and insights in this episode. So tune in and let's unlock hope together. Welcome to the Hope Unlocked podcast. I'm Kristin Kurtz, your host. I pray this episode is like a holy IV of hope for your soul. Please help me welcome Jason Heinritz to the show. I'm excited to have him here today. We just chatted for a little bit before we got started, and I'm just excited for him to share his testimony and part of his story today. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into it, that would be amazing.
Of course, Kristin. Hello. So for me, we could get into a lot of details on my story, but the condensed version is I'm a Wisconsin guy, born and raised, been there pretty much my whole life. In my 20s, I lived one foot in the world, one foot out, had a lot of fun. I'm in direct sales, selling Cutco cutlery, so it's a lot of party hard and work hard, and it's all, entrepreneurship. So that was a lot of fun. And I was young and single in my 20s, and then settled down in my 30s and got married. We have a couple kids now, and we just moved from Wisconsin to Washington about 6 months ago to help start a church. So that's been a big mission of ours. I'm still working virtually for being the manager for Wisconsin. And then just recently in the last year, came out with a book called Wake Up Jesus People, and then also journal with it. And then there's also 40 Forge Challenge. So that's kind of my very quick version of where I'm at now.
Well, let's back it up a little bit. The word entrepreneur really stands out to me when you shared that. Are you like first generation entrepreneur? Are you is it in your blood? Is this something generational? What does that look like for you?
It's not in my blood. So coincidentally, my dad, he did own his own electrical business, but he was an employee for himself. So he didn't really, even though he was an entrepreneur, he really wasn't. So if that makes sense, he was just an electrician for himself, and didn't really understand, delegation, marketing, any of that stuff. Just a great guy, great at his job, but I did not learn really anything entrepreneurial from him. It's all from starting in direct sales after my freshman year in college is where I got it.
Okay. So freshman year in college. So how many years ago was that?
21 years ago.
How many?
21.
Wow. So basically half of your life almost?
Oh yeah, half my life.
Wow. How did you get into it?
So I got a letter in the mail. We're really big. We're really big recruiters as a company. It's in sales, so it's you kind of figure out if it's not for you pretty quickly. And we send out thousands of mailers to young people, seem to be looking for work, and I was one of them back in 2004.
So this got sent to you at school?
Basically, everyone who is basically graduating senior or freshman or sophomore in college, as long as they're registered somewhere in public records, they typically get a letter.
Okay. So what led you to jump in? What was the yes?
Yeah, I was sick of working at Culver's. That was a couple years of flipping burgers, so I was sick of that.
Now you have to tell people what Culver's is, because I'm in Minnesota, you were in Wisconsin, and people, around the world, I don't think it's everywhere. I think it's northern people, right?
Right, yeah. Really good butter burgers, really just gooed up with a bunch of butter, which makes it so good. And they have amazing custard. It's it's a burger place. So that was great for 2 years. And then I tried working with my dad as an electrician, but I hated it. Labor work, I just can't do it. I'm not that tough for that, although I loved being an athlete as team captain of football and track. So I had the itch to be a leader and to work hard and see the fruits of my labor. And so just being paid hourly at Culver's and then as an electrician, it didn't matter how many wires I pulled, how many burgers I flipped. I was paid the same amount per hour. And then Cutco allowed me to kind of see the fruits of my labor for putting in some extra hard work.
Okay. It's interesting because I was actually part of that realm for a long time. And that was actually how I first like that was my first entrepreneurial pursuit. Besides like having garage sales as a child, and it's in my blood. So, um, I think what you said, there's a lot of, hard work, hard partying, right? So like what did that look like for you, getting into it, like just learning how to do business and is this a like Christian company? I'm not super familiar with Cutco. I mean, I've heard of it, so I don't want you to think I don't know what it is, but like, is it a Christian run company? Like what does that look like for you? Like learning entrepreneurial shit.
Hmm.
Like, was it all grind? There's there like grace in it? What did that look like for you to start?
Yeah, totally. So it's not a Christian company, but there does happen to be a lot of Jesus people in the company. And in direct sales, obviously, we can
Yeah.
share our faith and beliefs more, but it was just so I loved it. I
Hmm.
learned so much. I grew so much, Kristen. It was my drug. It was my
Hmm.
idol. It was I was putting up on a pedestal, and it was my God in my
Hmm.
20s.
Okay.
And so I was living one foot in the world, like I said, one foot out,
Mhm.
where as a Sunday Christian, I loved
Mhm.
Jesus. I was raised as a Christian, but wasn't
Mhm.
fully living it out in my 20s. And it was grind it out, work hard, and
Mhm.
make a lot of money, win a lot of trips, have a lot of
Mhm.
fun,
Mhm.
party, have a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And then
A lot of fun.
a lot of fun. Yep.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of had some wake up calls there
Mm.
around 30.
Okay.
And so I did make some changes.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how it works.
Okay. Would you be open to sharing a little bit more about maybe one of those wake up calls?
100%. That's why I'm here. So
Yeah.
I would say my first one was I called off an engagement.
Ah.
So I was one foot in the world, one foot out, having a lot of fun. I really was a pretty good, like pretty wholesome, person throughout my whole
Mhm.
life, but didn't really, do really much, as a good Christian boy, I'd say, until like 19 years old, and then
Mhm.
started drinking a little bit, started getting high, started sleeping around a
Mhm.
little bit, and so, it was
Mhm.
definitely drifting away from my morals and who I wanted to really be. And
Yeah.
then in my upper 20s, I met someone and we started having a great time. We were partying a lot. Our whole
Mhm.
relationship was based on sex, pleasures, and fun. So I
Mhm.
was caught. I
Yeah.
was like, this is great. This is so much fun. But it's all
Yeah.
based on the wrong things. And then within 6 months, Kristen, I asked her to marry me. And I
Oh.
also, she was living with us. So I
Okay.
was living. So get this situation. So I'm a
Yeah.
hungry entrepreneur, chasing money, chasing wealth,
Mhm.
chasing accolades, chasing ego,
Yeah.
while living with three non-Christian roommates who
Okay.
were partying a ton, and had my girlfriend at the time ask her to move in with
Yeah.
us because she was always there anyway. So just a
Sure.
recipe
Yeah.
for disaster.
Yeah.
So about 2 months before we were engaged,
Mhm.
we before the actual wedding, I called it off. It was
Mhm.
just I saw too many red flags. I was feeling this
Mhm.
angst of just this just isn't right. God woke
Mhm.
me up.
Mhm.
My parents and also our marriage counselors also had some questions,
Okay.
and so got to be 2 months before. All the down payments were sent.
Oh
All
my
the
gosh.
invites were sent. I was really nervous. And I was
Oh.
like, am I really going to go through with this?
Mhm.
And I said, no, I'd much rather delay this wedding than
Yeah.
call off a marriage because we are
Mhm.
unequally yoked. We're both
Mhm.
pretending to be
Yeah.
someone for each other.
Okay.
And this just isn't going to work. So yeah, I called it off 2 months before. And it was a great decision, one of the best
Mhm.
decisions I've made, one of the toughest decisions I've made. And then I spent a few months, like kind of
Mhm.
down a little bit. And then in the fall of 2012 was really shifted to
Mhm.
being, on this trajectory of who I am now. So I
Okay.
dove back into church, joined a bunch of men's groups.
Mm.
I stopped the dating. I stopped
Mhm.
looking for a mate at all for about a year. I
Okay.
dove into morning routines
Mm.
and really just kind of dove into this personal
Mhm.
growth journey even more that I
Yeah.
already had learned with the company, but just now at a different level, more serious
Okay.
level. So that was a big
Okay.
turning point.
Ever hear something on this show that stirs something deep, like a nudge from God that there's more? That's stirring. It's not random. I'm Kristin Kurtz, host of Hope Unlocked and the founder of New Wings Coaching, and I'm inviting you into a 45-minute unlocking session, a sacred space to press in, hear what heaven is saying, and activate your next bold step. If you're a trailblazer or kingdom voice ready to break free from doubt and live fully alive, this is for you. Book now at newwingscoaching.net/hopeunlocked for special listener pricing. You were born to live uncaged and unapologetically bold. Now back to the show. That's huge. I mean, you look back now and that was what, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Like even when you share it,
Yeah.
like do you still viscerally feel like that moment? Like
Yeah. I remember being really blinded and caught
Mhm.
up in all this, realizing, all right, devil, you almost got me. And I
Mhm.
can see, and I can see how easy it is for people in the
Mhm.
same situation to just go through with it and go, it's going to get better. It's
Right.
going to change. It's
Right.
going to be fine. And I'm just so thankful that I was listening
Yeah.
and I listened to God's prompting. And I call it off because, man, that I look at how thankful I am and how
Yeah.
blessed I am in my life now and how
Mhm.
different, completely different it would have been if I didn't listen to some of God's nudges there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How did he speak to you? Like how does he speak to you now even? I feel like that's something that a listener might be thinking like, well, how did he hear him? Like what did that look like for him?
Yeah, so there's nothing audible, and even still now, I don't hear anything audible from God. But
Mhm.
back then, it was just I could sense this like
Mhm.
this unease, and so
Mhm.
God he's a God of peace, a God of joy, God of love, and although it's having these instant pleasures and this fun, there's
Mhm.
always something where like, is this really who I want to be? Is this really? This just doesn't feel right. I don't have a lot of joy. I have a lot
Mhm.
of instant pleasure, but I don't have a lot of like
Mhm.
long-lasting joy and
Mhm.
peace about this. It's just I don't want to say yucky, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't feel like in connection with God and what He wants for me. So just these constant, I guess, just this constant feel. And the more so thankfully, I was still involved, in church. I was still listening to worship music. I was still seeking His wisdom, and I
Mhm.
had some great counsel from
Yeah.
the marriage counselors and my parents as well.
Okay.
And they just basically said, if she doesn't change, like, because I brought up some concerns. I was like, if she doesn't
Mhm.
change, I don't know if this is going to work out. Like, but I believe she's going to change, and
Mhm.
we're going to work it out. And they're like, well, Jason, not everybody
Mhm.
does. So if she didn't
Mhm.
change, she stayed exactly how she was, same mentality. And I
Mhm.
was feeling resistance as well. So I brought this up a lot of times to her of how I want to stop sleeping around or stop sleeping with
Mhm.
her, be,
Yeah.
before marriage. I want to make church a
Yeah.
priority. I want to, do these things that are biblical. And she
Yeah.
resisted it. So those were
Okay.
also some moments of testing. And then
Mhm.
when they said, all right, if she doesn't change, would you marry her? And I said, no way.
Mm.
So that's where,
Wow.
and I spent a month or two debating how to bring it up or when to bring it up.
Oh my gosh. I can only
Yeah.
imagine. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, we look at, obviously you listen to God first and foremost. You're discerning his voice and in the ways that, you were picking things up, right? And to have people in your life that were willing to ask those hard questions, who were willing to be like that iron sharpens iron. And I'm sure maybe at first you maybe were like, like, I don't really know if I want to listen to you. Some people might be thinking, well, I'm on this trajectory in my life. Like, don't tell me what to do, especially like some of you listeners out there. Like, you might have parents, you're an adult, and your parents might be asking you questions. But, as a parent myself, and as you being a parent, I have older, 17 and 20-year-old young men, and we're always a parent, right? We're always going to be a parent and we want the best for our kids. So thankful for your parents and those advisors slash, mentors in your life that were willing to ask you those hard questions. So you had that turning point, got plugged, like really plugged back into church.
Mhm.
You had a men's group that you're part of. Is that what I was
Hmm.
hearing? Like a small
Yeah, a few
group?
of them actually. I was
Oh,
involved
a
in
few.
three church things. I was
Oh,
attending
cool.
one church. I was going
Uh-huh.
to a men's group at another church, and I was in a young adults ministry
Okay.
at another church. So I was getting all of it. Hmm.
Yeah. So what would you say was like the biggest breakthrough that you received being plugged in with those groups
Hmm.
to start out? Because were you that plugged in when you're like a teenager child as well?
I was in high school, but it was more because my parents wanted me to.
Okay.
And it wasn't really my love for Jesus or my faith, it was my family's faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started transforming the world in my 20s
Mm-hmm.
and um, accommodating to what
Mm-hmm.
everyone else was doing around me.
Mm-hmm.
It really was a wake up call and I realized, holy cow, I've really slipped really far. And it just 1% a day has got me
Mm-hmm.
really far away from
Yeah.
who I wanted to become. So yeah, I dove back in. I was reading the Bible then every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was attending, conferences. I was listening to Christian podcasts, all of that. That really helped fill my mind to kind of
Mm-hmm.
renew my mind and give me a fresh start. I also, so my best man, Justin, who gave me some really good advice, is after I called it off, he mentioned to me a sermon series by Andy Stanley,
Mm-hmm.
who was basically it was called the New Rules of Love, Sex, and Dating.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point of his four or five part series was instead of looking for the right person, become the right person the person you're looking
Mm-hmm.
for is looking for. So
Wow.
from there, I made a list, Kristen, of all the things I would ideally want in a mate, all the
Mm-hmm.
things I ideally would not want, which were like 25 to 30 things aside. And
Mm-hmm.
then I picked and I circled five non-negotiables on either
Okay.
side. So it was so clear that after a year, because he gave a
Mm-hmm.
challenge in the series of take a year, zero
Mm-hmm.
dating, zero partying, all that, and just
Okay.
grow you, get closer to God,
Mm-hmm.
all this. And then when I got back on the dating scene a year later, it was
Mm-hmm.
very easy for me to look at that list and
Yeah.
go, in easy yes or no. Doesn't matter how emotionally how I'm feeling. This is
Mm-hmm.
logically like who is the type of person who I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking for. So if this
Mm.
is the person I'm looking for, that means I need to be this
Right.
awesome man to
Right.
attract and retain the
Yeah.
person when I do find them. Hmm.
That's incredible. Like how many, well, is this for men, this book, would you say, or for
Um,
anybody? For
so
the
so
series?
so the series is just on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Is it
Yep.
for men and women?
Men and women, but it's geared towards men.
Okay. Have you ever talked to anybody who's like, I'm thinking of Esther. You know, Esther had her
Hmm.
time of preparation, and I think it was a
Hmm.
year, right? Have you heard of any other like men in your life who've done anything like this before? I haven't personally
Yeah,
in my world. I don't know.
I mean, I guess growing up in personal growth and direct sales and that, I have had, I've heard of some people doing something like this. I'd say maybe not as intense as I did,
Hmm.
but also I love sharing with people, and I've heard of people doing it after I've shared it with them.
Okay.
But I've definitely heard of people making a list of what they would ideally want and not want,
Hmm.
but not always a year of cleansing,
Right.
repurposing, and stopping some of
Hmm.
the bad habits. So,
Hmm.
no, not as much.
Okay. So you had a top five. Do you remember what those five were?
Yeah. So the short answer is I don't think so. But if I remember, so because I had a bunch of things written down.
Hmm.
So some of the non-negotiables were can't be so can't be a smoker.
Hmm.
Needs to love Jesus. Needs to be healthy. Needs to
Hmm.
be positive.
Hmm.
Um, Needs to be like a dreamer, like have a hopeful future
Hmm.
mentality. There were some attractive things as well. Just like I had to be, obviously I had to think they were really, really
Yeah.
attractive. What else? I was trying to think of the non-negotiables. I can think of a bunch of general ones, but
Yeah.
yeah, what did help though is I made not just the ideal of
Hmm.
yes, the ideal of no. And yes, a lot of
Yeah.
them you think would be opposite, but
Hmm.
there were some things that were very clear on separate sides that
Hmm.
didn't always correlate to the opposite of one side. So it was very helpful to make both sides of the ideal and not ideal.
That's incredible. So single people out there, listen to Jason on this and like what would be, I don't know, as you were like getting back into the dating scene, was there any, I don't know, I'm just wondering if there was any like funny stories or any like random ridiculous dating things that you experienced getting back into, coming in as like a purified man into
Mhm.
the scene. Like, what did
Yeah.
that look like for you?
They were flocking. No, I'm just kidding. No, I tried the online dating scene. It just didn't work. I
Hmm.
mean, me being in, Green Bay, Wisconsin, all the decent options were in Chicago or Minneapolis.
Oh,
So it was hours and hours away. And so I never went on a single date from that.
oh wow.
And I actually had written it off. So just maybe for your audience to not give up because
Mhm.
God's working behind the scenes. And
Yeah.
so I basically gave up with online dating after a few months. I'm like, cool. God wants me to be Paul. He wants me to be single.
Mhm.
I want, he wants me to be influential in the church and
Sure.
for his kingdom. And then sure enough, after I had made my logical decision,
Yeah.
all of a sudden a friend DMs me on Facebook
Hmm.
about this high school. This girl Michelle she worked with me,
Hmm.
and she went to high school with my now wife Abby, and she messaged me and said, "Hey, I have this friend Abby who's like she's totally awesome. She's single.
Hmm.
You and her are like the same. You guys are both posting all over about Jesus and about positivity and about health on your Facebook. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys are both single. You guys need to meet each other. So
Oh,
we kind of got set up, and
yeah.
then we met in a coffee shop after about a week of communicating together. And man, that was a really awesome conversation, a few hour hangout. And sure enough, I'm
Wow.
like, throughout the whole, I don't believe in love at first sight. I really don't, but I do think there's
Hmm.
signs.
Hmm.
And I logically went home
Yeah.
afterwards, after having this conversation, I'm like, she's so great. I feel like she's like the one. I look
Oh,
back in my journal where I made the list, and
yeah.
she was not just all of the non-negotiable. She was basically everything.
Stop
So
it.
it's such an
Really?
easy decision to
Wow.
go, yep, all right, God, that's pretty
Wow.
exciting.
Oh,
So funny how he just set things up.
wow. So you didn't have to go through like just
Nope,
horrible
nope.
situations. Because I've
Hmm.
heard, I mean, I've been with my husband since we were 18, so it's been
Hmm.
29 years, and I cannot even imagine like these last few decades of trying to date with, especially this
Hmm.
decade, or even, like technology and social media and I can't even imagine. Like, what would you say to somebody besides doing this list? What
Hmm.
other like advice would you give to others who are really seeking and chasing after Jesus and trying
Hmm.
to date in this world the way it is?
Yeah, fish in the right pond. So what's most important to you? If it is Jesus, which I hope it is if you're listening,
Hmm.
fish at church. And
Hmm.
if your fitness is your idol or number
Hmm.
one, well then look at your gym. But I
Hmm.
would say for, the listeners here, it's probably Jesus. So go to the conferences, join the young adults ministry,
Hmm.
join other groups, get involved and serve. Because when you're
Hmm.
serving right along with someone who's a servant's heart, who
Yeah.
is there at church, and I mean, you're going to run into people and God's going to intervene. So
Hmm.
do that, and He's going to bring the right people to you. Hmm.
Yeah. And I noticed you have a sweatshirt on today that says set
Yep.
apart.
Yep.
So, is there some, I mean, it's significant for what you're talking about today, I believe,
Yep.
but is there something for you in wearing that? Like, I love like
Mhm.
graphic, tees with words. I love words. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt led to ask, like, for you specifically, like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, well, for my wife and I leading our young adults ministry, we came out with these sweatshirts. So it's being conformed by Christ and not being transformed to the world,
Hmm.
essentially. So yeah, being set apart, being holy, being different. And so, if we want to have a great, long-lasting, awesome relationship with Jesus at the center, we need to be different. We need to be set apart.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're only on this earth for 100 years. And are you thinking from eternity, or are you
Mm.
thinking from a perspective of this earthly life? And so it's a matter of when you're being set apart, you're also going to meet others who are on
Hmm.
that same journey,
Hmm.
and it's going to be long lasting. Obviously, you want them to be cute, but It's like it's not going to be all about founded on the pleasures and the partying and the looks. It's on
Yeah.
that internal foundation that Jesus is at the center, and these are
Mhm.
both pursuing Christ. Therefore,
Yeah.
as you get closer to Christ, right, with the God triangle, as you get
Mhm.
closer to Christ, you're also growing closer to together. And my wife
Mhm.
and I have been married for about 10 years now,
Oh,
and
congrats.
for sure,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, it's not easy, and
No.
it's hard even with Christ at the center.
Yeah.
And so, man, whatever you can do, and then lean on Him, and it's going to set
Mhm.
you up for a long-lasting
Mhm.
marriage and thriving marriage, along with then raising great
Mhm.
kids who are following His path as well.
Yes. Well, I love that. I love set apart. Romans 12:2 is what you're referring to, right?
Hmm.
I call it my birth verse because I was
Hmm.
born on 12:2. I'm like,
Mm.
yes, that is so on point.
Yes.
You mentioned one of my favorite words, different. And I do believe as an entrepreneur that everything we need to do needs to be different than what the world would tell us to. I mean, obviously, we're going to gain wisdom. We can grab some things from, wisdom from the world, right? From people who maybe aren't fully walking in that kingdom mindset. What would you say is most different about you when it comes to working in that, direct sales space, being an
Hmm.
entrepreneur? Like, how do you set yourself apart from others, especially in the space that you're in?
Yeah. Well, that goes into another wake up moment, Kristen,
Hmm.
which is so that there's actually two wake up moments here. So stop me if I talk too long.
No, you
But
you roll with it.
yeah, so after this, so I found my ideal mate. She's awesome. We get married,
Hmm.
but God is still not number one. The
Hmm.
idol of work is still number one. So in my 30s, for the most part, it was a cool God. I'm following you. I'm loving you. I'm going to church. I'm not just Sunday Christian. I'm in it. I'm
Yeah.
every day. I'm doing something called the sacred start.
Hmm.
So the sacred start. So it's five things. So it's exercise every day,
Hmm.
journaling every day, praying every day,
Hmm.
affirmations every day, and then Bible reading every day. So those five
Hmm.
things, and we can get more into that after this, but I've been doing
Hmm.
that since 2012.
Wow.
So that sets me apart, but it also makes me like, I'm in it. I'm a daily
Yeah.
practicing Jesus
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
but work was still my idol. And
Mm.
I was claiming God was, but if you look at my mentality and my schedule, it was
Hmm.
work. So I was working still, and this is all in person. I was
Hmm.
basically in the office for like 10 to 12 hours a day,
Wow.
Monday through Friday, another day on the weekend. And
Hmm.
it wasn't long lasting. I wasn't just in my 20s, addicted to building this thing anymore. It was, hey, I have a wife, and now I have
Hmm.
a kid, and then two kids. So I
Yeah.
can't keep doing it this way. And I
Yeah.
was justifying, Kristen, as well,
Hmm.
that from my 20s, what carried over in my 30s is I was still numbing myself. So at
Hmm.
night, probably 4, 5, 6 nights a week, I was numbing myself with either a weed gummy or
Hmm.
either a couple drinks. And I wasn't getting like wasted or
Yeah.
blazed or anything where it was like I was like out of it. It was
Right.
just enough to like I would feel it. And
Hmm.
I definitely wasn't my full self. I was
Hmm.
justifying that I was being present and turning off the work thing, but I didn't know how else to do it. I was just so
Wow.
conditioned to work, work, work until I could like veg out and be
Hmm.
numbed out a little bit. So then I could not worry about all the work stuff,
Wow.
indirect sales as an entrepreneur and as a leader. So it was
Hmm.
the only way I was relying on substances instead
Hmm.
of Jesus. And
Hmm.
so throughout my 30s, and as my wife kind of saw what was happening and how I was hiding
Yeah.
some things from her too, and
Okay.
I knew when I was being called out by her, and I was having some friends question a few things. I
Hmm.
knew I had to stop. So this is a big wake up call in 2023 as I
Okay.
finally stopped. I threw it all out. I stopped justifying, and I stopped. I just stopped
Mm.
cold turkey, and I
Wow.
had some accountability partners at church from some men's groups. I had my
Mm.
wife who's rooting me on as well, and I
Mm.
just had to make some changes,
Yeah.
and it made me stop relying on that evening switch in a
Sure.
substance. And
Mhm.
now, cool, I can pray. I can listen to worship music, whatever can get me in a peaceful state of mind and turn
Mhm.
off this work
Mhm.
brain.
Yeah.
And so that was really a big wake up call in 2023, a
Gotcha.
big transformation. And then
Mm.
I got rebaptized as an adult as well,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was great. And then my wife and I also then took over young adults ministry
Okay.
in 2024. And then sure enough, when I stopped, and that's also when I stopped some of the workaholism.
Okay.
So up until then, no, so in 2020 we had our first child, and then
Hmm.
in 2022 we had our second child, and in 2022 that was a big wake up call where it was like, I can't believe how big our oldest is just 2 years
Mm.
later compared to this new
Yes.
baby. Like, holy cow, 2 years
Yeah.
went by so quick. I need to stop being a workaholic. I need to
Yeah.
start setting boundaries.
Hmm.
So I also, starting in 2023, I basically said, I'm only available between 9 and 4, essentially,
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
I love it.
And so that's it. And I had
Yeah.
to get creative of how to do this business and
Hmm.
how to work that way and how to delegate properly.
Hmm.
And so that's been a big, set apart difference where now, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm only working at this point between 9:30 and 4 because I drop off my boys by then and
Yeah.
they come home from school by then. So it's a good boundaries. But also
Yeah.
it's including everything: podcast interviews,
Yeah.
chiropractor, haircuts,
Hmm.
everything that is scheduled that I
Yeah.
have to be at is only between those times, including work time. So it's been a
Yeah.
huge blessing to figure that out and
Love
also
it.
to not, just to turn off and go, God, I trust you. I'm actually
Hmm.
taking a Sabbath. And now I even do, so Saturdays are family days,
Yeah.
Sundays are Sabbath days. So
Hmm.
sure, I do some planning and I
Sure.
might like respond to an email or
Hmm.
a message here and there, but I'm doing nothing scheduled work related, which is so different
Yeah.
from everyone else who I work with because they're busting it every day, every Sunday.
Right.
They're working a ton. And so
Hmm.
for me to let go of that idol and
Yes.
finally surrender, now
Hmm.
guess what happened? We had our best year ever, best office ever in the history of Wisconsin in 2024. And then
Yeah.
again, we blew past that again this last year in 2025. And then now in 2026, we're going to hit another milestone. So it's funny how
Crazy. Love it.
when you actually put God first,
Yeah.
he blesses you. Hmm.
Yes. Say that again. Just that statement one more
Yeah.
time.
When you put God first, he will bless you. And when you surrender your idols and actually
Mm-hmm.
make God your idol,
Hmm.
well, everything else is going to fall into place. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, so good. I feel like this is going to bless so many people, especially maybe if you're listening and you're in direct marketing or, like network marketing, and it's really any business. I think anybody can get kind of pulled into that grind, the hustle. I don't know about you, but I cannot stand when people say holy hustle. Those two words
Hmm.
don't go together.
Hmm.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think it's hard for people to do it in a Christian way, meaning yes. So yes, I work really hard when I'm
Mm,
working, but holy hustle, I think people think that means the grind the 24/7 and he's going
mm,
to bless you and do it for his glory. But that's just a cop out.
mm.
I was saying that
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
but I was doing that to justify my workaholism. And
right.
so I think it's the work hard. Yeah, God, like he gave us
Yeah,
talents. He gave us
absolutely.
opportunity to earn and to influence. But
Hmm.
if that is taking the place of
Hmm.
God and your
Hmm.
family,
Yeah,
what's going on there? So
exactly.
yeah, holy hustle for limited time in
Yeah.
the working hours.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you've got your boundaries. You've got
Hmm.
the 9 to 4. I'm kind of like a 10 to 4 or 5 depending on the day, and I'm Monday through Thursday taking calls
Hmm.
from people. Friday is like my creative day, and my day if I go to the grocery store and I just happen to like randomly talk to somebody and I have open time. I don't know if you do anything like that too, where you have some like quote unquote flex time so that you're able to kind of stretch into something a little bit longer, like putting, I put like 15 to 30 minutes between scheduled calls
Hmm.
for me to just even go for a quick walk or
Yep.
just do something because I came from corporate. I came from the grind of corporate for like 20 years. I left there like 4 years ago. And I don't know about you, but did it take a little while for your body, your mind, and your spirit to recalibrate into this new rhythm?
Yes, it did, but I was so ready for it and it was so fulfilling. So I do,
Mm.
I like my wife teases me for these acronyms, but, and for, saying things like this, but like I go on worship walks. It's a
Yeah.
little much easier in Seattle area now than it was in Wisconsin to do
Right.
year round. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, those 15-minute resets, get out in the sun.
Hmm.
My neighbors
Yeah.
think I'm crazy and even did back in Wisconsin because I'd be outside 15
Hmm.
minutes out in the sun with
Yeah.
my shoes off, getting connected to the ground, breathing, jumping around. And so it really is important. God created, like,
Yeah.
our bodies are unbelievable. And when we give
Yeah.
it the resources it needs that God has
Mhm.
made out there for us to
Yeah.
use and utilize, we're
Right.
not going to be as worn out and tired and all that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. And I also I tried to stop booking meetings one right after each other, and youth coaching calls
Hmm.
too. You understand, like,
Yes.
what, like, if you do that, that is exactly like if you had a church service,
Hmm.
and it ended at 10:30 and started at 10:30. That'd be
Yeah.
chaos going
Mm-mm.
back and forth, or a
Yeah.
concert. Like, you need that space between, because each of
Yeah.
these are events, and just
Hmm.
to like decompress, get some air,
Yeah.
get some sun, get some
Yeah.
water, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, because it's fun. I like to say, be like a plant. You
Hmm.
need some sun, you need some water, you
Hmm.
need some food, you need
Yeah.
to be rooted, all the things. So how many people like do you manage at this point then?
Sure. Well, that looks different, for based on the timing of the year, but
Hmm.
it's different where we have a lot of people we give a shot to,
Hmm.
and we probably have half of them who are done within a month. They
Oh,
give the
wow.
job a shot. It's not for
Okay.
them. Not a
Mhm.
big deal.
Sure.
But I mean, I recruited 200 plus people last year.
Wow.
So it means within their first month, half of them are done. They gave it a shot, made some money, got some experience, realized, all right,
Hmm.
sales or entrepreneurship isn't for me, and
Sure.
that's fine. And
Yeah.
then it works all the way up to where I have managers who work for me, who've been with me for years, and I have even Cutco sales professionals
Hmm.
who've been with me for like a decade, 10
Wow.
to 15 years, who are doing
Wow.
this, full time. So it really
Okay.
depends. And also, since we work with a lot of college students,
Hmm.
they're just trying something out.
Yeah.
They have 20 jobs throughout college. They're figuring
Sure.
things out. So a lot of them, it's just for a summer. It's for a
Hmm.
semester. We have some
Hmm.
really great stay-at-home moms, so it's perfect around kids'
Hmm.
schedules, and working at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say in a typical time. So right now, currently, I have
Hmm.
about 20 reps on the team
Hmm.
and about 5 managers
Okay.
and about 5 Cutco sales professionals. So I'd say about 30 now. And it's our slower time right now in
Okay.
the spring.
Yeah.
Summer and winter break is huge for us.
Okay.
Hmm.
So have you been able to just share your rhythms with your team and people that you work with, and even in the company as a like larger,
Yeah.
conglomerate? Like, have you been able to share what you shared here with me today to help others really walk
Mhm.
this out in a healthy way?
Yeah, I love doing it. It's why I feel like I'm here. And for a decade, probably, I claim that this is God has me placed here for a reason. This is my mission field, but
Yeah.
I didn't really utilize it. And
Hmm.
now, in the last just probably 4 or 5 years, it's been, all right, I'm on a mission. So we
Hmm.
started a Cutco, Christ, Courage and Community,
Oh,
4Cs, a
okay.
C4 chat, we call it, trying to connect all the Jesus people in the company,
Hmm.
which is great.
Hmm.
And then for sure, I just gave a message the other week on I only use quotes from the Bible.
Hmm.
So from the greatest self-help book ever.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But it's for sure something where I check to see if I
Mhm.
love using the church analogies,
Yeah.
Bible verses, all of that. But if they're not a
Hmm.
Jesus person yet, no, I'm not gonna
For
bring
sure.
all that up. But I'll for sure ask people nonchalant way, hey, are you a church goer? And start there. And
Mhm.
if not, okay, not a big deal. But I still want to be a light for them. And anyone
Mhm.
who is, just helping them blossom, helping them feel comfortable
Mhm.
sharing their testimony in that. It's great.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'd say something I wanted to mention too that I think would go with still the story, but also where I'm at right now in the company is
Mhm.
I did take a demotion 2 years
Oh.
ago, and it has been unbelievable. So in 2019, again, chasing my accolades and status and the idol
Mhm.
of work. Still, it was the top promotion to what's called the division manager,
Mm.
and that was in 2019. I was jacked up. It was awesome.
Mhm.
I'd made it. And
Mm,
then, yeah, it was about 4 or 5 years of struggle, frustration,
mm,
just staying in the same, in the same level.
yeah.
And I was just really struggling. I wasn't either God was blocking me from it or just my leadership ability wasn't there yet, but it was tough. It was
Mm,
really tough. And I was really struggling with my work. And so after all the prayer and transition and surrendering as well, I basically
mm,
told my manager, hey, I want, I don't know if I'm going to leave the company. This is definitely last year in my role. It's like, all right, we'll see. So yeah, a year went by and I took a demotion, and it has been so freeing these
mm,
last 2.5 years because I don't, I've seen a lot of people come and go in this
mhm.
business and in every business, and I'm the first person I'm aware of in the 21 years I've been here who took a demotion.
Really?
Usually they quit and then they blame the company, and they're too prideful
Mm,
to come back or take a demotion. It's been awesome. I've definitely seen some looks and heard of some people ask me questions in a curious way, but also a why, you
yeah.
know.
What are you
You
thinking?
had you had a title and you had
Mm,
that role. But yeah, that's been fun to share with people at
yeah.
conferences and
Yeah.
events when they hear that. Hmm.
So if I'm understanding correctly, just partly because I did some of that in the past,
Yep.
when you say a demotion, could you just share a little bit more of what that would mean for somebody if they don't know what that means in this
Yeah.
realm?
Basically, I was running. Basically, it was a smaller territory and
Hmm.
less pay, and then got promoted for a bigger territory and more
Hmm.
pay and bonuses.
Hmm.
And then I took a demotion back to a smaller territory and less pay.
Hmm. Okay. So more freedom
Oh
is what
yeah.
I'm hearing.
Oh
More
yeah.
peace, more
Oh
joy.
yeah.
All the fruit.
Priceless.
All the fruit.
Yes.
That's
Mm.
so good. Wow. Well, I love that you have walked this out and you're still walking it out. And I know that there's going to be more on this journey for you and the people that come around your world. I think you said you have a book.
Sure do. Yep.
And tell us more about your book. What's the name of the book? When did it publish? Where can they get
Sure.
it?
Yeah. So I know people can't see it here, but I think you'll
Mhm.
like the cover. But it's Wake Up Jesus People,
Amazing.
Life-Giving Disciplines to Awaken the Warrior Within.
Hmm.
So it's about there's two ways I like sharing it, but it's waking up as a Jesus person to wake up to be in the game and to not be a zombie and not be sleepwalking through life as Sunday Christians, not
Yeah.
serving, not helping, not being like on the field of the
Hmm.
actual players of the game. They're just the
Yeah.
spectators going, all right,
Yeah.
I'm like not really making as much of a difference as they could.
Yeah.
So it's waking up to life. It's waking up to being more courageous, sharing your faith, having dreams again,
Mm.
believing, all of
Mhm.
that. And then a lot of it is just disciplines of what does it look like to be a Christian? Like there's all the books and sermons and that on like how to love more and how to
Yeah.
love God more and all this great stuff. But what does it practically look like?
Hmm.
What's the routine of a Jesus person? So it's all about that morning routine called a sacred start I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
There's some of the habits I mentioned throughout the actual day. Um,
Hmm.
there's um, there's journaling. There's a necessary night, a nightly routine to
Oh,
get
I like
everything ready for the next day. There's weekly
that.
habits such as Sabbath and
Hmm.
fasting and things of that nature. And then yeah, so that's kind of an overview of it. And
Amazing.
it came out a year ago.
Okay.
You can find it on Amazon or at wakeupjesuspeople.com.
Okay.
And there's a journal that goes with it as well. I tried
Hmm.
out a bunch of journals
Hmm.
and loved some, didn't like others. But after buying other journals, I thought I know
Hmm.
exactly what I want to write in here, and I know exactly what I want each day. So I came
Yeah.
up with a partner journal with
Okay.
that as well. And then yeah, and then there's a challenge with it as well called the 40 Forge Challenge, which is basically a 40-day
Oh,
challenge. It's
wow.
basically a Jesus version. If your
Mhm.
listeners know about 75 Hard, it's like
Yes.
a Jesus version of that.
Okay. Awesome. We have some similarities here. I created a program called 75 Whole like 3 years ago.
Whoa, look
Yeah.
at you. Let's
Because I was like,
go.
we got to flip the script on this because I
Yes.
don't know about you, but like I had talked to some women who attempted 75 hard
Yeah.
And they couldn't get through it. It was too hard. It was like shame inducing, like,
Mm,
and they just gave up. And it was like,
yeah.
yes, there's some like good principles in there, but
Right.
it's just not. And even the symbol for it, I'm like, it's a
Yeah.
skull. It's like, no, thank
No.
you. I'm
Yeah.
not interested. Thank you, though.
No. And there's a million people that supposedly have created that or have gone through it
I know.
that, I mean, come on, let's make a Jesus version. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
Love it.
it's kind of similar, but it's so
Mhm.
I went for 40 days
Okay.
because it's biblical,
Yeah.
right? So you think about in the Bible, I'm sure your listeners know,
Mhm.
but all the time there's over 100 times in the Bible that 40 is used, and it's
Yes.
examples of whether Moses was on Mount Sinai before receiving the Ten Commandments was 40 days.
Hmm.
Israel in the wandering in the wilderness was 40 years. The
Hmm.
flood was 40 days.
Hmm.
Jesus' fast in the wilderness after being baptized, 40 days. Jesus post-resurrection, 40 days on
Hmm.
earth before he ascended. So,
Yeah.
if you look at anytime you see 40 in the Bible,
Hmm.
typically it's a time marked of testing, preparation, or transition where God has
Hmm.
prepared his people for a new stage of his plan. So, you have the 75 days, like
Yeah.
75 hard. You have sometimes the studies show habits take 21 days to form.
Hmm.
So I just went
Hmm.
biblical and did 40 days. And
Yeah.
there's three versions of it. The lowest version
Hmm.
is called 40 Forge Ignite.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's just abstaining for 40 days from alcohol, drugs, and porn. So three things
Hmm.
that have a lot of people, a lot of Jesus people caught up in
Hmm.
chains. And then exercise for at least 15 minutes a day,
Hmm.
Bible daily, and pray daily. So that's kind of the minimum, all
Yeah.
the way up to a 40 Forge Hard,
Hmm.
which is pretty intense. Do you want to hear that, or should I?
Of course. Well, do you, if you'd like to,
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
open to hearing it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So sometimes I want to make sure I'm not saying too much between interaction on
Yeah, you're
podcasts.
good.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so 44 chart. So this is intense. So it's
Yeah.
the Daniel fast plus protein.
Oh, wow.
Again, no alcohol, drugs, and porn.
Hmm.
No social media.
Hmm.
Exercise for at least 40 minutes a day. Read 10 pages of the Bible a day.
Yeah.
Pray daily. Journal daily. Do your 90-minute morning sacred start routine, which already includes all
Mhm.
this,
Yeah,
essentially. Just
narrated.
get your butt up early and do it right away in the morning.
Right.
You like this one, drink a gallon of water,
There you
and
go.
then worship music only. So
Amen.
that's a
So
44
good.
chart. Yeah.
Now, is this something that that they're tracking through the journal then that you've created?
So there's not a tracker. I mean, there is. We have a WhatsApp chat, and there
Yeah.
is, I don't have like a page that's a tracker, but on
Okay.
the journal,
Mhm.
so they do end up getting a packet with
Mhm.
7 chapters of the book and the 40 pages of journaling,
Yeah.
along with some other social media things of being able to check things off or share of what day
Yeah.
they're on. But there isn't a specific
Mhm.
like app or tracker. It's
Okay.
more of, hey,
Yeah.
what works for you to track it?
Yeah.
And it's kind of a
Run with it.
self-accountability.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I love it. Wow. So I do have to go back to the book a little bit.
Yeah,
I always like to ask people who've written a book. Are you like somebody who thought you'd write a book? Would you consider yourself a prolific writer?
not at all.
Okay.
Nope. I can
Yay.
barely speak well,
Say that
but
again.
I'm not a
Not.
writer. Not a writer, but I did go through. So being raised in direct sales and personal
Mhm.
growth, I was always dreaming. We do dream sessions of like what's possible and what
Mhm.
can you accomplish, and use this as
Yeah.
a vehicle to accomplish your dreams, and which is great and true.
Mhm.
But but yeah, but I thought, why not write a book during one of these? And I actually
Why
wrote a book
not?
prior to this,
Yeah.
and I went through a self-publishing school, which
Oh.
really helped. And I spoke a lot of the original book. So the first book was called Conquer the Post-College Passion Slump, and it
Oh.
was all about getting out there after college and
Mhm.
personal growth being the big reason you're going to get ahead in life, not your GPA,
Sure.
essentially. But yeah, I basically spoke a lot of it, where
Mhm.
I would use voice memo to
Mhm.
speak it into my notes, and then
Yeah.
copy and paste that into a Word document. And then I had some editors and did a
Yeah.
lot of back and forth. But that book wasn't very good.
Mm.
It was okay. People
Mhm.
said they liked it, but it wasn't anything big.
Okay.
But it was really what I believe was a setup Kristin, for this one, because when God put it back in my heart, when I've been practicing this morning routine for 13, 14, 15 years, and I saw the fruit from it, and I was leading a discipleship group for a couple years, leading groups of people through this Wake Up Jesus People movement, and I just saw so much fruit. I'm like, I need to write a book on this, and because I had previously written one, it wasn't as daunting of a task to make it happen. So I spent all of 2024, well, the first 6 months, every morning, waking up 30 minutes even earlier to write it. So there was no distractions. So I did that for 6 or 7 months, and then went into some of the editing phases.
Okay. What was the most challenging part about getting these words out?
Patience, and surrendering to God that it's not all about me and about how well this book does. It's more about the mission and the message behind it, and how, I want it done. So I wanted it done, but I've been going through the Bible since 2019 each year. It's been awesome. And I thought, I need, from my perspective, as I've written the book now, it's middle of 2024, I need to actually continue reading through the Bible again this year with this perspective of the book. So it helped me add in some more verses and had me put in some right things there. And I was also fasting over part of it. And sure enough, because I was patient, and, all right, God, what else do I need here? I had added fasting to the book and the 44 challenge. So during fasting, I'm like, oh, duh, biblical principle, so huge. My wife and I do it all the time with our church. Yes. So I added the chapter of fasting in there, and then I added the 44 challenge, because at the end of these discipleship groups, I was sending these guys through this challenge. Like, cool, you went through this 8-week discipleship group of how to do all this. Here's the 40-day faith fast, I called it. It was so lame, but the 40-day faith fast is kind of similar to what it is now, but now it's been upgraded. And then I was like, I don't have a chapter of that. I'm just sending them off. I want to send them off with this challenge once they finish this book. So I'd say being patient, because when I was able to add some great verses that were very relevant, and I was able to do some final tweaks and add a couple bonus chapters that wouldn't have been in there if I tried to rush to really get it out.
So good. Well, way to go in getting that out. It's amazing. And really geared towards men. So, guys, you're listening in, go get the book. Remind us again the name of the book, just because they probably heard it earlier, but maybe they weren't listening at that very moment. So, name of the book, where they can get it, and your website.
So wakeupjesuspeople.com. So wakeupjesuspeople.com, and it's where the journal is. We have some 40 Forge swag. There's the challenge on there, and also the links to Amazon where you can go and get the book. Anyway, but it does have, since I'm a guy, it does have a little more of a guy tone, but it's really for anyone. And really funny enough, out of the almost 100 people that have gone through the 40 Forge, the only two that have finished have been female.
Really?
So it's been great. Yeah, it's been great to see that. So it's really for either or, but for sure with the warrior on the front of the book and that, and in my perspective, it has more of a male perspective. But that's where you go to check it out.
So much goodness. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I would love for you to share. I shared in the beginning, I do this for the one. If you could just think of that one who's listening in today, is there anything else that you'd want to speak over that person? And then would you pray us out today?
Yeah, for sure. But my final word to listener would be, if you're listening here, if you're still listening, you're obviously looking for more peace, more hope, and more joy. So I would say, take an inventory of what your idol is. And is it really Christ, or is it something else that takes the place of it? And are you fully surrendered to him? Because when you are, it may not look normal to your friends and society. You may have questions, but man, the blessings come. And and a lot of the blessings being peace and joy and just this way of living that is just, can't say I have no fear, but it's so much better. And it's closer to the way God wants us to live these 100 years while we're here. So are you fully surrendered to him? And if not, question is, how's it going? Take a real inventory. And the closer you can get to surrendering more and more to him, man, just the more abundant life is going to be. And I think the more you're going to be looking down from heaven going, I did great. I did great. And then Yeah, so those are some final words. But yeah, I'll pray us out here
Yeah,
and
thank you.
wrap us up. So, dear Lord, thank you so much for this time here. Thank you for the listener who is here and whatever they're going through, Lord, please give them hope, give them joy, give them belief that they can be better and that things will get better. And that if they're not reading the Bible every day, if they're not praying every day, if they're not involved in the local church, that they get plugged in and they listen to you, Lord. And the more they're plugged in and tapped into you through your word and prayer, the more they can tap into that, and the more they can hear from you, and the more goodness you can share. And so thank you for just everything you brought us through so far. Thank you for the ups and downs in life that have molded us to be more like you and less like us, and continue to give us courage on this journey, continue to help us live this life so you can say, well done. And just thank you for great people and podcasts and hosts who can share wisdom and share testimonies and be here to be a light for those around us. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Jason. Just as a reminder, I will have Jason's contact information in the show notes, but if you want to just tell the listeners again how they can get a hold of you if they'd like to reach out.
Yeah, and social media, it's just my name, Jason Heinritz. And then also, if you just search "Wake Up Jesus People,"
Okay.
you'll see my info come up there. But yeah, the
Awesome.
website wakeupjesuspeople.com is more of the hub where it links to
Okay.
all the
All
other
the
stuff.
things. I love it. Awesome. Well, I'm going to close with our Hope Unlocked anchoring verse. It's, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit, you may abound in hope. And that's Romans 15:13. So thank you, Jason, for being a brave voice who's setting so many free. Have a blessed day. I'll be back with another episode next week.